Hi, my name is Leah, and I am an integrative mental health expert and lifestyle medicine educator, helping you to reconnect with your body, rewire your brain, and elevate your life through science, spirit, and daily practice. And I am so excited to share a soulful self-care conversation today.
Hello, Sean, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here.
Hey everybody, it's Pearl Sorenzo with Women's Successful Living, and you have come on to another conversation of our Soulful Self-Care Conversations podcast and YouTube. So if you're liking us on YouTube, make sure you've liked and subscribed below. If you're listening to us on all the different platforms, Apple, Buzzsprout, wherever, make sure you subscribe there as well and share us out to your friends. And if you're driving right now, just take a good listen and come back later and watch the show notes, or read the show notes, I should say. But if you are sitting somewhere so that you could take notes, grab a piece of paper, grab a cup of tea, or if you drink coffee, I'll let you drink coffee too, and sit back with us because I'm so excited to bring our special guest today, and that's Dr. Leah Taylor. She is a licensed therapist, a PhD in mind-body medicine, and creator of the Embodied Groove, a transformational movement experience that blends science, spirituality, and play to unlock healing and personal freedom. With over 16 years of experience, Leah helps you release stress, rewire your nervous system, and elevate your frequency. I'm so excited to talk about this today with her because, listen, you guys, a couple weeks ago, I had to go in for an MRI, and I had bad bedside manner tech. Did not tell me what to expect. Laid me down on the table. It was a head MRI. Screwed my head down, slid me into the thing, didn't say close your eyes or nothing, and I had a panic attack. And I never have had a panic attack like that. I'm pushing the button. He's, you can stop pushing the button. I'm like, you're not in here fast enough. Get me out of here. And so I stepped that away, rescheduled it, had an open MRI. And so I was prepared, right? I went in prepared on how to do this, which are things we're going to talk about today, like how I playfully went into this. We're going to talk about the play part. I love play part. So I playfully went into it because my friend was like, it's going to be noisy. You might sound like you're in a rock band. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I did meditation before I went in. I actually I do this PQ process through positive intelligence. I had myself prepared. And I actually tapped along with the noise and the loudness of this MRI. And it's loud, you guys. If you've never had one, it's loud. I was like, the girl, when we got done, she said, so how was it? I said, I felt like I was in a rock band, but I wasn't getting paid for it. So I'm excited to have these conversations today with Dr. Leah and talk about everything around self-care and playfulness, and also about her new program she has. Dr. Leah Taylor, and I know we're going to call you doctor, we're going to call Leah at times, so I know it's going to be just a very laid-back conversation, but I want to welcome you to the show with something fun and different. And I don't know if you've caught an episode or yet, but I don't have questions. So to the listener that's listening or the person that's watching us on YouTube, I don't have a set of questions. It is a conversation. That's why we call it Soulful Conversations. But I always have one question I ask, and that is, let's talk to the little girl, Leah. Let's go back and talk to her when she was little. I want our listeners to get to meet her. I want you to share with us, what did she want to be when she grew up? How was she growing up? And how does it correlate to what you're doing today? And so for me, I always like to give the example. I, growing up, wanted to be a teacher. In fact, the other day I was at a friend's open house and somebody, so what do you do? I'm like, I'm doing what I want to as a little girl, but I'm just working with the adult children now because I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. And I look at it saying, I'm teaching them and coaching them now because it was meant for me to do that, because we forget to put ourselves first. And so now I get to do that. I get to help my clients say yes to their life. And so it correlates a lot in that I'm teaching. I just did it a little bit older in my lifetime. So what about you, Leah?
Yes, I loved to play when I was a little girl, and I did catch an episode, so I was prepared for this question. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? It wasn't until my early teens, that I knew that I wanted to do something to help people. But when I was a little girl, I was just involved in making dances with my neighbor, performing for our parents, and just a lot of dancing, a lot of kind of being out there on stage. I really like to like just put on a show. I have my sun is Sagittarius and my moon is Leo. So I think I just have a whole lot of fire in me and I just like to be out there. So that really does correlate to the way that I work today, especially with the embodied groove piece. And I love that you brought in rock and roll because that was actually how it came about. I've been a movement teacher for probably 10 years at the time when I was in a dance class, and I just had this epiphany that I needed to start a live music movement class. And because we may talk about this, but one of the transformational portions of my life that led me on the journey that I'm on right now, really as a mind, body, spirit integrator, was live music. And I was on the dance floor at the House of Blues, North Myrtle Beach in 1998. Rusted Root was the band that was playing, and I danced the whole time and just I like to say I just felt like my whole body got blown apart by the percussive beats. Rusted Root at that time is very percussive. And I just moved and danced the whole time. And for the first time in my life, I felt as if I was in the most alignment that I had ever been in. And from that point, I was like, I need to figure this out. I need to find out why that happened. I need to figure out how to make it happen on a large scale basis every day, not just going to a show. And so that's been my mission. But I do a lot of things around that, but I also teach movement. And I love to get up in front of people. I love to take crowds and bring them all together with intention and get them moving in their body and create the sense of collective flow that is just so powerful medicinal for everybody involved.
I love that. And before you came on, first of all, we used to have a beach house in South Carolina. We loved going to the House of Blues. We loved being down there. It was so much fun, the Myrtle Beach area. We tend to stay more we were in Surfside Beach, but we love that whole area. So if you're listening to us, if you've never been, it's a great place to go, especially with families these days. It's so much fun. If you want the quietness, Surfside Beach is the quieter side of everything, but you can still have fun in Myrtle Beach. But I love that. And then you and I were talking before we came on how I just finished doing this dance competition for 3 months leading up to March 24th, I think is when the dance was. I was taking dance lessons with a local here in Brandon. I'm going to give them a shout out, the Fred Astaire studio here in Brandon, Florida. They had, I think there was 12 of us that they did dance lessons and they choreographed a dance with us. And we had to pick a Disney like character around the princess character. So I decided I wanted to do Moana for the Edge of the Water song. And I had the most amazing patient dance instructor, Zach, who's 22 years old, 6 foot tall, and I'm this little short thing. And when you talked about doing things when you were younger, I used to try to do gymnastics. So sometimes we do a gymnastics show, but dancing shows, we never did that for our parents. And so he took me from hardly being able to move to like dipping me at the end. I'm like, you're gonna dip me? He's like, yeah, we're gonna dip you. And so now they're doing a showcase and they're like, hey, you want to be part of the showcase? I'm like, yes. And the reason why I said yes is for those that have followed my journey, and we were talking before we started recording, I lost my son. It'll be 3 years ago this July. And I have an amazing family. I have an amazing younger son, Nate, as well. But when we lost Matt almost 3 years ago, it'll be this July, I was going through all the different things to help me with my grief and everything. But it was really interesting. I did the dance, one for the charity, but two, because I was never going to have that mother son dance at a wedding with Matthew. And I thought this would be my great way of paying homage to his memory and having that dance. And although Zach looked nothing like Matthew, but it was still great. He was so amazing and understood where I was coming from. And I remember the night of that dance, there's a picture and I posted on my social media. So those of you listening, go find it, where I looked and I had my smile back. And I said, there's a smile I haven't seen in almost 3 years. And it's nothing against the fact that I lost Matthew. It's just that we all have to walk our grief journey in different ways and different things can help us. And for me, that's why I'm continuing to do the dance, is because it is helped me keep my smile. It has helped me reconnect back to myself. And Matt loved to dance. Matt loved to do rap songs and things like that. So I'm not doing any kind of rap dancing, but we're doing fun dancing. And the song from Moana was The Edge of the Water. It was like, how far have I come? And how far have I at that edge of the water if I allow myself to start going? And so I love that you brought that up too, in describing when you were younger and how you're doing that today. And yeah, we're going to talk about your program and all of that. I just want to thank you so much for sharing and playing along, because sometimes people get worried about, oh, what's she going to ask me that song? And I appreciate you also watching an episode, because sometimes our guests forget to do that part and they wait till their episode comes. So I love it. And again, I'm going to say, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe below and share us out to your friends. But let's get into some of what it is that you do, because here with our Soulful Self-Care Conversations, I want our listeners to have tools and tips and tricks that they can pour into themselves to help them step into self care. Because oftentimes, especially as women, we're people pleasers. We forget to do something for ourselves. We forget that the cliche overflowing your cup is really true. And it does hold a lot of value to us. If you're listening to us and you're like, oh, yeah, it really does. Because if you just do your cup to a certain level and start giving to others, you're not going to show up the way you want to for those that you love. And so I love in what you're talking about, that like the movement, taking movement that gives you the play and the spirituality. Talk to us about that, because it's funny we're having this conversation too. I had my lesson this afternoon before we're recording this. And one of the things is Zach gave me this piece of paper, and I didn't think to bring it with me, but it talked about, I think there's 30 different things on there around what dance can give you. And it's not just learning to make a movement, it's about how it can relieve stress, how, all the different self-care things, how it can, if you're having a bad day, come in and have a lesson, how it can just make you feel happier, and the movements and things. So talk to us like how that, from your perspective, and how you help your clients, how do you help them understand? And you talk about rewiring. How do you lead them into that rewiring?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. And I also just have to say, I love that you brought up Moana because I love that movie. And the first time I watched that movie, the way that the water chose Moana, I felt in that moment, I was like, wow, I feel like live music and movement chose me to be a spokesperson because that's what I wrote my dissertation on. So I just love that interplay between that. But what I would say about how I bring people into it, most people come in, I'll do this at festivals. I have my own class that I lead in Berkeley at a music and dance community center, and really everywhere that I possibly can. I'd love to do it more and more places. But when people come in, they're looking for a good time. They're not actually there for transformation. They're usually there to just let loose and have fun and have a good time. So I do it in a gentle way, but I also, what I love so much about it is that as I'm teaching, and this is something that I feel like I can do really well, like I can teach something while I'm also embodying something while I'm also talking about it, which kind of are like three separate things. And so the first thing is safety. It's so important to feel safe in your body. In order for any rewiring to be happening, there has to be a level of safety because when we are in our stress response, when we are hypervigilant or not relaxed, then we're focused on survival. We're not focused on rewiring anything because the brain likes to conserve energy. That's why shifting beliefs, starting new habits, it takes effort and it takes attention and it takes repetition. And so safety is the my most important thing. I want to help people feel safe in their body. I want them to be relaxed enough to just have joy and play and have a good time, which is why I bring the play in because that really does help people to just relax. If I were to say, okay, we're going to go do this thing and we're going to rewire our brains and we're going to get this and we're going to get that, they'd be like, what are you talking about? No, I just want to have fun. I also always start with intention because intention can be so powerful. And I was listening to a sound therapist talk about the most powerful thing about sound healing and sound therapy is the intention that is brought to it. And I loved that so much because I know that. I just know that intuitively. And so we start with intention. I just remind people, hey, why are you here? Did you come here to let loose? Did you come here to experience joy? Did you come here to connect with somebody or with yourself? Did you come here to release something? Let's bring that to the forefront because when we remember that we're doing something for a reason and what that reason is, it's so much more likely to happen, right? Then most likely we're going to experience it and it's just going to integrate a little bit better into our mind, body, spirit because we're aware of the fact, oh yeah, this is what I came for. Oh, and that's actually happening. So we start with intention, and then there's an easy flow that really follows like a conscious dance flow. So if anybody has been to a conscious dance class, and when I say conscious dance class, it means that you're bringing some intention to it. There's not a whole lot of choreography. So this is not like a Zumba class. This is not like a step aerobics class. There's enough of me guiding to help people feel comfortable and safe but I also leave a lot of spaciousness for their own spirit to come out. And with Embodied Groove, the name is twofold. It is we have our own embodiment of groove inside of us. And then also, if it is being done and delivered with live music, which is I love that way of doing it, we are the embodiment of the groove. So, how can we set our thinking mind aside and just allow the music to fully move through us? And so I do that in a way that does feel very safe and natural to the body. We start with a nice, easy warm up. I take people through their 13 major joints, get all of those energy centers and joints moving so that we allow flow through the whole body. And then I guide them through some different ways of moving to remind them that we have options. We tend to stick with the same kind of movements in our body when we dance, we have the same moves. So I just like to expand people's options and know that they can move in different ways. And then, and by then, like anybody who's been in an experience of flow, especially with music and movement, knows that there comes a point where you just relax into it and you're just moving and grooving together. And so we do that for a while. And if I'm teaching a class, every song has a little bit of a focus. If it's like a jungle song, I'll be like, okay, pretend like you're in the jungle. And we're like, what kind of jungle animal are you? Do you have some fierceness in you? Or are you a big bird that's like flying high above the treetops? And then there's always some shaking and dancing, which was actually the first mind body technique that I learned in my PhD program, because shaking has been all of these things. This is just a remembrance of the medicine that has been with us since the beginning of time. Creating music, whether even just like creating a beat on our bodies, but certainly if we're listening to music, moving our bodies, using our voice, shaking our bodies, coming together in community. Music, movement, and community are some of the oldest medicines that we have been using since the beginning of time. And they're so cost effective because you can reach a large amount of people all at one time. You don't, it's also, it can be very intimate, but it is non-threatening because anybody who, so I love live music and I am a devotee to certain bands. And the bands that I love are more along the jam band spectrum. So they like to do more improv music. And so there is no set list. You never really know what's coming, but it's almost like you just show up and everybody's showing up at 8, 8:30, whatever time the show starts. And it's just, we're like, okay, we're here. Let's do this. We're all in this together. And then you just go on this ride and there's an interplay between the audience and the band because the band is feeding from the audience. Of course, the audience is feeding from the band. And that can be a very intimate experience, which I believe, and I have not done research on this, but I really want to, can really help with attachment issues that people have had from early caregivers and not receiving what they need from that relationship. So I love the connection piece. Again, non-threatening. It's not like we're staring into each other's eyes really close together and having to even touch. It's like you're sharing energy. You can feel the other person, but you're having fun at the same time.
I love that. First of all, I want to go. I love dancing, and there's a couple of funny things in there that I was thinking about when you were saying it. But I like how you create the safety, right? That's so important because when you do and setting the intention, I think it's really important to set the intention for the day, getting up and having a routine. What is your routine? Is it affirmations? Is it journaling? It's not one size fits all. So if it's sitting down and journaling for you, make sure you set the intention to do that every day. If it's getting up and having playful music, get up and do that every day. Like it's a great way to start your day. And whether it's affirmations and saying affirmations, like setting an intention for your day, but like what you're talking about, going in and into this is what's my intention? What do I want to get out of this event that I'm doing, this thing that I'm going to, this embodied movement? I think it's really great. And I love that you also talk about having that vision and then how you bring other different music in, like the grooving, the jungle. I started laughing because, and how you're saying the movements aren't always the same. My husband, we're going on a cruise in August, and I'm excited because while I'm doing these dancings, I'm also learning dancing. And my husband, I met him almost 40 years ago. His dancing, and to this day, still is jogging in place. So I'm like, come on, move your arms, that kind of thing. Because that's how I love it. I'll get up and I'll turn music on and just play along with it. And I love what you talk about, like the jungle, like creating that environment, pushing us out of our shell, because sometimes we're afraid to stretch that. And what really got me is when you said about the grooving, moving the groove that's inside of us, but also releasing those things that might have been holding us back for so long. Because we hold on to that. And part of my story, my journey is not just the loss of my son, but also how I've had to divorce my parents. And it's part of it's generational stuff for them. It's what they did know or didn't know. And part of it's also being like setting my safety measures around what I need in my life and who is in my life. And it was interesting because it came up in a deep conversation. Somebody had posted something on social media posts or whatever about how could you do that to your mother and all these things about what mothers are nurturing and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm going to challenge you on that. I'm going to challenge you that, yeah, yes, we should. Our mom, we think our mom is going to be that person who's going to love us forever. And they're always going to be that mama. When we get these pictures of the mama lion, the mama bear, all those things, but sometimes they can't show up like they need to. And sometimes it shows up harmful to those of us that are in this situation. So therefore, we have to put boundaries on. And I challenged her and I said, let me reverse engine this for you. If this was not my mom or my dad, but a relationship, a partner, or somebody, would you still tell me the same thing? And she couldn't come back and answer that. Like she tried to dance around the question. And so to release, that's part of this dancing thing, like I was saying earlier. It's not only helped me to walk through this grief, but it's also like I do it, see what you're saying. I'm finding like even today we weren't even working on the choreography of our dance. He was just teaching me what we're going for, the some swing steps, like the jive. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I remember doing this with my grandfather. I remember going on a cruise. My grandfather takes me out the dance. I'm like, Grandpa, I don't know how to do this dance. He goes, just follow the leader. And I'm like, okay, I'll follow you. So it brought back those memories for me today. So it's a great, like what you're saying, it's a great way to release those things that we're holding on to that were trauma for us as a young child or recently, whatever that is. And I love that you created that and that you're creating that safe space. So share with our listeners, do you do this? You just do it? Because I know you're in California. Do you travel with this? Do you do this? Can people connect with you online to do this as well? How do you bring this out to, because there's so many things like we see, I think just recently I've been seeing this thing about, I don't even know what they call it. Everybody's laying down on this ground. They're doing this like inner like stuff, like releasing stuff inside. But how do you bring it out to everybody? How does somebody get connected with you to do this?
Yeah. Yeah. The best way to look and see how to connect is through my website, drleahtaylor.com. And I do sometimes lead events across the country, but then I also take on coaching clients. And so my coaching would be with somatic techniques, a lot of nervous system regulation, lifestyle medicine, because as you mentioned, there is not one size of self-care that fits for everybody. And because I come from like part of my self-care is going to see music. And traditionally, that is seen as recreational or something that you don't do as an adult. It's looked down upon. But I know a lot of people that are really receiving a lot of benefit from it. And at the same time, there's a balance too, because it can take away from you if you're not being careful. So coaching online, I also, because the embodied groove is like the activation of the healing, also of just the experience of that level of joy, that level of bliss, that level of connection. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, like I like to help people understand that they can actually still have that in their everyday life. So bringing it into the mundane. And so I have a program that will probably run in May or June this year. It's called the Inner Ease Method. And it's really a mindset program I take from cognitive behavioral therapy. I also help people establish an embodied mindfulness practice so that they have an everyday practice where they can learn to detach from their thoughts, they can learn to detach from their judgments so that they can create this level of inner peace and ease inside of them. So I have programs like that. I also have another mastermind that I run that is more on the emotional focus and really energetic mastery of learning how to really just be like energy ninjas with our energy and how do we fill ourselves up and also say no, like you were saying, to the people or things that are going to take away from that. And then I'll be running a more spiritual based program towards the end of the year where it really is about coming back to the connection with yourself and then also developing a large level of trust with the universe that just everything is falling into place and that life is happening for you instead of to you. So those are some of the ways that people can work with me online. I will also just say real quickly that I also lead retreats, Embodied Groove retreats. I'm leading one actually next week to LA, and it's a VIP experience. This is to Phish, which the band Phish, Phish. They're playing 3 nights at the Hollywood Bowl in West Hollywood. And so our retreat is 4 nights. It's the night before and then the 3 nights of the shows. And it's a very intimate retreat. We have an amazing house in the Hollywood Hills. Everybody has their own private room, private bathroom. We have a rooftop deck with a hot tub. I'm going to be leading Embodied Groove every day. We're going to have morning yoga sessions. So it's like a retreat self-care atmosphere while doing a 3 night run of shows. Because there are a lot of women that, like I myself saw Phish for the first time when I was 19 years old. I definitely do Phish differently now that I'm a 46-year-old woman than I did as a 19-year-old. And yet, when we develop these habits, it's very easy to get pulled back into the way that we used to do things and forget that we need to adjust them for who we are today and that there's an opportunity to grow and also to take that magic and that everything that's happening there and to bring it out into your everyday life. So that's what those retreats are about.
I love that. I haven't heard about Phish in so long. Oh my gosh, it's so cool to bring that back up. And I love how you're incorporating stuff around them too and their music. And I think that's going to be really powerful. And you said something like one of the things I asked, so for the listeners that are listening and or watching, one of the things I ask is for my guests to share their Shiro story. And I know you've talked about that, and we've been talking about this, about how this process has helped you heal your anxiety and help you rewire your nervous system. And you've learned to transform stress into, instead of being controlled by it, you're controlling it, and you're using things to help with that. And I think it's important for those who are listening to understand that everybody has a journey that they've been through. Everybody has something that we've gone through. And if you haven't anything traumatic, God bless you. And if you have had something, these type of things, it's really finding what works for you, right? It's like finding what works for you. If it's not dance, and maybe like we're talking about journaling, sometimes you have to go to a therapist, but finding things that can help you, like we we're talking about, rewire our thoughts, rewire our thinking of, like you were saying just a second ago, things happening to me instead of things happening for me. One of the things when I coach my clients, I'll ask them often, first of all, sometimes my clients come from after working with another coach, and I'm like, why me? And they're like, I watch you on social media, you're honest, you're not in an echo, you're not just one way of thinking, you understand we all have different ways of thinking, so you're open to that, you share who you are, so I know authentically you're showing up as who you are, and that's part of what they like. And then, like, even my story, my parents and the loss and the grief that I have and stuff. And so I want you, the listener, and those that are watching us, to understand that you can rewire some of the stuff that's happened to us. There are ways to do it. You have to put the work in, right? It doesn't like happen overnight. It doesn't say, oh, I do one session with Pearl, or go to one body movement with Dr. Leah, and it happens. You have to put the work in. It's a constant work in progress. But it also comes back to understanding you have to put you first in order to do the work and see the results. Because if you do I'm going to go here and take care of me here, but now I got to go show up for all these titles that I wear, whether you're a mom, whether you're a professional career, whether you're the PTA volunteer, whatever that is, those titles, spouse, mom, all those, they have to come second. You who plug in your name, Pearl, Dr. Leah, you have to come first. And that's how you start the rewiring process, is understanding that I have to do something for me to change and rewire my thinking, especially if you think that everything happens to me. I remember a situation where I had something happen in our family, and I remember walking up my stairs here at my house to my office, and the thought that went through my mind was one client I had in my head saying to myself, man, I'm glad this, and it sounds crazy, I was glad this happened to me and not to that client, because I know how to respond. But had this happened to that client, because it's pretty traumatic, they might not have been able to respond the way, and it might have sent them down a rabbit hole. So I like how you talk about in your Shiro story, how you recognizing that you can rewire our nervous system, that we can transform stress into not letting it control us, and teaching, and how you're teaching us and others, like, to really, like, that whole reconnection with our body and our nervous. And really it does, like you're saying here, it comes down to what's my core belief in how do I heal whatever needs to be healed? How do I take care of my own personal self-care? Like I like how you called it your Shiro story. Create your own personal self-care medicine. Self-care medicine. I love that you put that in there because people think I go to my doctor all the time. I was there this morning with results from some testing I had done. And I was like, okay, I have these list of questions. And one was like, my MRI didn't show anything, but I still feel like I have this thing happening in my head. And he's like, I know how you are. Your next question is going to be to me, should I do contrast? And I was like, yeah, I'm always thinking 2 steps ahead. I'm not Dr. Google. My mother-in-law, rest her soul, we used to call her Dr. Jenny. I'm not that kind of person, but I want to know that I've got control over taking care of me because I work so hard to overcome people pleasing that I want to make sure. I just turned 60 last year. I want to make sure in my next few years that I'm pouring into me as much as possible to have that longer lifetime of living, depending on what God has planned. I don't know when my dash is going to end, but I want to live my dash, not let my dash determine how I live. And so I like how you shared about rewiring our nervous system. And I want our listeners to understand that. And so can you tell us, or share with us, like, what are some of the things that you've seen? If you think about your clients, because you've been doing this for a little while and you've done your studies and things like that, what's some of if you could say, like, some of the top 3 things that you've seen happen with your clients in doing some of the things that you're doing with them?
Like the results.
Yeah, results. Sorry. Yeah. What are some top 3 results you're seeing? Thank you for that help.
Yeah, definitely. I have a lot of people come to me with mood problems, whether it's anxiety or depression. And I believe that both of them are nervous system regulation issues. Depression is just being hypo, and anxiety is hyper. Once a person can get to a more regulated state, and that, just like you said, comes with consistency. It's not just I feel peace for a couple of seconds. We have to train our brains and our bodies how to feel that again. But once that begins to happen, certainly the anxiety begins. People can heal anxiety very easily. The pharmaceutical and medical companies do not want you to know that, but you can absolutely heal anxiety. And then, of course, sleep comes a lot easier because that is all wrapped into that. Weight loss happens very quickly as well. I'm definitely not a weight loss coach. I do not focus on that, but that happens to be a secondary thing that ends up happening. And then also the relationship piece gets a lot easier too, because when we can know the only thing we have under our control are our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors. And all of us, most of us, I will say, don't realize how much power we have over those. And it can feel like it's out of control. But when we can focus on the simple practices that I help people with and gaining control over that, then our relationships just become so much easier because we're not bringing all of our stuff into them. We're not being so reactive that we're just moody and pissy. And it's amazing. It helps with so many different things. And my own case, I don't work with menopausal women or perimenopausal women. I am a perimenopausal woman. And I'm like, I truly believe that my hormones are balanced because of the way that my thoughts and my emotions are. And of course, then supported by my behaviors of what I'm doing on a regular basis.
I second that statement 100%. That's the one thing for me. I'm all about what am I putting in my body. I used to just concentrate on health and wellness and help clients just with weight loss. And it's evolved into this life coaching program that I do and our Shiro method, as we call it. And part of that is also, like you said, don't have the midnight wake ups. Like I help my clients with those midnight wake ups and how we can control those midnight wake ups. And it is about doing some of these things, like your thoughts, like you said, your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. It's like working on some of those can help you with those midnight wake ups and so forth. And so I love that you reminded us of that. And yeah, I too, like my husband and I, we go to the same doctor's office, but it's funny. My husband sees the wife and I see the husband and they have 2 different approaches. I walk in, like I said earlier, with my list. This is what I do. And my doctor's very open to letting me control with his guidance. And when he brings it in reality, sometimes like for about 6-7 months, I was like, I don't want to take that med. He's okay, I'm going to let you try to do it on your own. And if it works, great, we will work together on that. But if it doesn't, then I need you to do this. I'm like, okay, great. Just like today when I went in, I had this test result. There are some things that showed up. Is like everything else is showing fine pro. I don't want us going down a rabbit hole because I know you don't like to go down a rabbit hole. So we're not going to go down a rabbit hole, but here's what we are going to do. We're going to keep everything the way it is. And then just before you come in for your next appointment, go do this test so we can verify what we have today. And I'm like, okay, I'm good for that. And that's how I want to approach my health. Where the wife is a little different. I went in with my husband because he's not taking his vitamins. I don't believe in vitamins. She's very much in the pharmaceutical med piece. That's fine. That's her belief and that's how she does it. And it works for my husband. I challenge him at home, though. I still make him take the vitamins at home. I challenge him with that and thoughts and everything as well. And it truly is, if you're listening to us today, it really is your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors. And if you need help on that, reach out to Dr. Leah and we'll share her information in just a second here, or reach out to me. Subscribe and follow below, because we both can agree, those are areas that can be worked on that can help you through. I will tell you, during COVID, I started what we have today is our Shiro League, and it's our membership program. If you're listening, we meet every Sunday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. We say it's a great way to end your week and it's a great way to start your week. We talk about the good, the excitement, the indifferences, the challenges we've had for the week, or what we're facing up ahead, so we can help each other to prepare for it and celebrate what's the celebrations. And so during COVID, I saw many women, especially, being like, I got to teach my kids at home, and my spouse is home all day, my partner's home. All these people that I call it the Calgon take me away, but I can't leave the house moments. And so I just created this 30-day self-care challenge where every day you had to do something for yourself for 30 days. We would meet every Sunday evening and talk about what we did for the week. And at the end of 30 days, what are we going to do now? So here we are almost 4 or 5 years later. We still have the Shiro League. But now we really this month, we're talking about resiliency, how to become resilient. What does that look like? What does it mean to be resilient? And so we do things all around those thoughts and what we're talking about, our emotions and our beliefs. And we have great guest speakers that come in and share as well. So I'm glad we had this conversation today. And I'm glad that we're reminding you, the listener, and the person watching us on the screen here, that it's never too late to change. It doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. You can start changing your thoughts and emotions today. And the reason why I like to ask about that younger self is because it does reflect who and what we are doing today. But also for those of you that are, like I said, I'm 60 years old. So those of you that are about 30 years younger than me, don't wait like I did till I turned into my 40s to figure this stuff out. Start doing it today, because no matter whether you have children at home or you don't have children at home, no matter how young or old you are, it's never too late to say, I got to put self first. Because if you don't, tomorrow may not come for you. And I'm going to challenge you. I say this often on our show. If tomorrow I have to go sit in Dr. Leah's funeral and share the great things I saw her do for herself, I can tell you that getting to know her, she does these things we're talking about. I can tell you she probably did some great dancing and great things that change her nervous system, as she's been sharing here today. So if we can't say, or your friends and family can't say at least one thing they saw you do for yourself, not your titles you did, not how great mom you are and all these things, but what did they see you do for me? Like, I sit in my front porch swing, I'll go for walks, I try to make funny, silly videos. Those are things that I do for myself. Then we need to talk. We need to have a conversation. You need to reach out to me or Dr. Leah, and let's have a conversation about how to put yourself first without that guilt. Because no is a complete sentence, and you can say it like you're saying it yes, and you can say it with a smile on your face. And so we want you to say it like you just won $1 million. So Dr. Leah, thank you for being on with us today. And before we go, a couple of things we have to do here. One, share with everybody how they can reach out to you. So if you're driving, we're going to put it in our show notes, come back and watch show notes, but share with everybody how they can reach out to you. And then two, we have to do our cards. So I'll let you go first. Share about how they reach you.
Okay. Yes. Great. Like I said, the best way to reach me is at drleahtaylor.com. And on that, you can download a free toolkit. It's called your Stress Less, Joy More Toolkit. And it has a little mini embodied groove on there so you can experience what we've been talking about today, as well as the best stress management strategy that I never hear anybody talking about. So it has some really great tools. So go check that out. And then I'm also pretty active on Instagram at Dr. Leah Taylor is the handle there.
Awesome. And we're going to put all that in the show notes so that you guys can go in there and copy and paste it and find it and get all those links. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so now, if you're new to our show, I want to say welcome again. We have this tradition we do at the end of our show. It's called Better Questions, Better Life cards. My friend Carol Gill and Diane Allen created these cards. You can go on to betterquestionsbetterlife.com and buy them. I get nothing. I get no kickback. I just love these cards. There's 77 cards. things you can either meditate, you can journal on, or just have a great saying for the day. So I'm going to shuffle them, and Leah, you're going to tell me when to stop, and we're going to read the card for you. So here we go.
Stop.
Yay, she got me in the middle of the group. This one says, how do I care for others? I think we've talked about that, but how do you care for others? Like thinking about, like you talk about your clients, think about those close to you. How do you care for those close to you?
Yeah, the closest people to me are my husband, my son, and my dog. And my husband and we've been married for almost 20 years now, so it's really important for us to come together and to talk deeper than just the everyday, how are we making things work? What are we doing today? How are we like just the basics. So even last night we sat down and we had a conversation about finances, which is something that has not in the past been very comfortable for me, but I do all of our finances. And that was actually really helpful for him because we were just able to get some things above ground and come together with our desires and the reality of things too. So I would say I care for him by just showing up in an honest and open way. And he's very self sufficient, which I appreciate. And he actually cares for me a lot. So I feel very grateful that I receive a lot from him. And then for my son, he's 14 right now. So it's a big time of me just letting him know how much I love him and holding my open arms while he is just finding himself and having more time to himself. So we just went on a spring break road trip up to Oregon that was really lovely. And that was really special. We got to go to a couple of national parks and get outside in nature and make some memories.
Those trips are always fun. I remember we took our boys to Italy one year for spring break. We had like airline miles. Let's go somewhere like that we would never normally go to. And so we did, I think it was like 2008, something like that. It's been over 20 years ago. And then now everybody's flown and grown in different ways. And so now this August, my husband and I, we actually have our bucket list cruise. We're going for 10 days on a cruise in and out of Athens, Greece. So we have this Greece tour. We just the other night booked all of our excursions, and we're so excited to go on this trip. It's like that bucket list trip. But I want to add to that one thing. I want to share a tip that we do in our family. And sometimes you just brought up too, like difficult conversations and relationships can be hard. And so finance, my husband's the auditor in our family. He's an auditor in our CPA. He audits everything, right? So those conversations can be hard, but conversations in general. So if you're listening to us, this is something that we find that works really well with us. And that is that if we have something that's on our mind, we'll say to one another, hey, are you open to receiving? And we give the out to say, no, it's not a good time. We give the opportunity to say, it's no, I'm not right now, with the commitment that within 24 hours we will be open to receiving, right? And usually what happens is the person that wants to share what's on their mind has a chance to rethink it and be like, maybe it's not that big of a deal. And then when that conversation comes up, you know what, this was on my mind, but I worked through it and I'm all good. And so it just changes the way the approach is with everything. And I think that's something I want to share. And the other thing too, I want to share, like for my husband, like managing the grief process, right? For men, it's so different than women. And I remember one time shortly after our son passed, I remember because Nate, my son, my younger son, my husband and I, we all agreed that we don't hold back tears. In fact, I met one of Matt's friends at his graveside yesterday. He's like, Mrs. Shrens, I'm so sorry, I'm crying. I'm like, no, don't, I want you to cry. These are memories. It's therapeutic. So one of the things that we agreed to is not holding back tears, but I had to learn languages for both of them. And so I remember my husband came home one time from doing some stuff and I was like, so how was your day? And he's life. And I was like, I sit for a second. I'm like, you're thinking about Matt today, aren't you? And he's like, yeah. So I had to learn that language. So if you're listening to us, learn the language. There is such thing as love language for our loved ones. So go look that up. I forget who wrote the book, but there is a book on love languages. It's a really great book to listen to. But I want to thank you for sharing your family and how you take care of your family, because we talk so much about how you take care of your clients. But I also want to remember that we do take care of our families, you guys. We don't just help our clients. We also help our family, and we love our family. So again, I want to thank you for coming today, Dr. Leah. And I want to remind all our listeners that like and subscribe below. If you want to learn more about what we do, go to our website, wsliving.com. But remember, you come into this world, you're a little rough on the outside, you've got some work to do, but as you do that work on the inside, you're going to find your inner pearl of greatness, and you are an amazing hero today. So go do that.